Hi, everybody. Victoria here. Welcome to a mini-sode of the Let's Relieve Regret podcast. And we will be back next week with a full episode with Shadow and a guest, so look forward to that. But I decided to do a mini-sode today because there's been a bit of a theme lately in a lot of the classes I've been teaching or one-on-one work or questions we've been getting in DMs or comments. And I've kind of narrowed it down to three kind of conversations or curiosities that people have been having around boundaries, needs and wants, purpose. And by the end of today's mini-sode, I'm going to give you a little tool that I think is really impactful as well. The first thing I want to talk about today is purpose. What do you feel like when you hear terms like live your life with purpose or live intentionally or try to have a meaningful existence? Take a second to really think about it, because it makes me feel pressured. And I've been having really interesting conversations around this idea of purpose. You have purpose just by being a human being. Your purpose is to live a human experience, and you're doing it right now. When we get into this place, and this may sound controversial, everyone, you may be feeling resistance with what I'm saying right now, but stay with me. When we get into this place of trying to really define one single purpose or trying to have one life intention, or if we're kind of seeing that on our social media feed, we start to feel that pressure, right? And often in times of transition, there's pressure too. Graduating from university, what's my purpose now? What's my job going to be? Retiring, what's my purpose now that I don't have a job? Having kids and kids moving away from home, what's my purpose now? There's a lot of pressure in society around this idea of purpose. And I think it folds a little bit into the idea of toxic positivity, which we've talked about before. That's kind of the overgeneralization of a happy, optimistic state across kind of all situations in life. But what toxic positivity actually does to us, it can result in denial, minimizing, not feeling validated, not feeling like you're having an authentic human emotional experience. It compels us to pretend that the tough times don't exist. And I actually think that this pressure to have one really big life purpose is a little bit toxically positive, because we don't need to pressure ourselves to have a purpose like people we see in movies or on TV or on social media. And it kind of fights against us loving ourselves and being kind to ourselves. What can happen when we start to feel that pressure around purpose is we can kind of go down that rabbit hole of who am I? Where do I belong? When will I finally feel fulfilled? Why don't I feel fulfilled? Why don't I feel satisfied? And that's actually called self-verification theory. That's when we start to search out things that convince us of what we think is wrong with us. And that can happen with affirmations as well. If you try doing an affirmation that says, I am strong, and you hear another voice inside your head that says, no, you're not, then we start believing that we're not, and we start searching out reasons for that. And often when we go on this kind of epic journey to find purpose or live with intention, we actually forget the simple purposes that we have in life. And I also think that this is connected to boundaries, needs, and wants. So my question for you is, what do you want? What do you want that's going to make you feel fulfilled and satisfied? And we can have many, many purposes in life. We can call it purpose, we can call it intention, we can call it meaning, we can call it goals. They can be really small, everyday, ordinary things. My purpose is to care for Olivia the cat. My purpose is to be on this podcast. My purpose is to go for a walk every day and commune with nature or be in nature, right? Here's what I want to say to you. You have a purpose just by existing on this planet. You've heard me say this to you before too. You are worthy just by existing on this planet. And you have a purpose. Your purpose is to be human and to experience humanity. And if you start there, then you can grow from there. Take the pressure off yourself to find purpose. And when you take that pressure off of yourself to find purpose or to be what you think you're supposed to be, you can start asking yourselves about boundaries, needs, and wants. What is it that really makes me feel fulfilled and satisfied? What is it that really makes me feel connected? And you might find that it's really simple things. Or what is it that I'm really good at and I enjoy doing? Or just simply, what do I enjoy doing? So let's take it back a step for just a moment. I want to talk about self-awareness, because if we can start practicing self-awareness, then we can start asking those questions of ourselves. We can start looking for and understanding what our boundaries, needs, and wants are, and what our intentions and wants and purpose is, and that they're actually quite simple. So what is self-awareness? And we talk about it a lot on the podcast. We ask curious questions. Shadow is amazing at asking curious questions that really put you into that place of looking inside yourself and having those conversations with yourself, right? Self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or don't align with your internal standards. Right? So what's really going on inside? What's going to make you feel fulfilled and happy? What's going to make you be able to have a kind and healthy relationship with yourself? That's self-awareness. So what can we do to get better self-awareness? That's kind of the first step. And Shadow and I, if you've been listening since season one, we kind of said, oh, this is an experiment. What would happen if we practice talking about things we regret? And really, that's a practice in self-awareness. What would happen if we said out loud the things that we're thinking inside our head in a safe place where we can observe ourselves and have a conversation with someone about ourselves to learn more about ourselves? That's self-awareness. So a few tips to practice self-awareness or to gain better self-awareness. Just observe your relationship with yourself. How do you talk to yourself in your inner voice? Do you ever take a minute of quiet to just observe yourself, to just be? There's a difference between being and doing. Listen to your inner monologue. And if it's not an inner monologue, maybe you think in terms of pictures. Maybe your brain thinks in other ways, but just observe what's going on in there. And start being honest about what your relationship is with yourself. Are you kind to yourself? Are you hard on yourself? Do you push yourself to do things that maybe you don't want to do because you think that your value lies in people liking you? Do you have things that hold you back? And I'm going to answer you right now. Yes, you do. We all have limiting beliefs or challenges or things inside of us that hold us back from taking action. Discover what those things are. There's nothing scary inside of you. Learning about yourself can be fun. It can be fulfilling. It can be satisfying. You can have aha moments, and it can be really, really rewarding. So just one small step at a time, observe yourself. Interact with yourself with love. Ask yourself questions. Questions like, what do I really want here? What are the things in my life that actually make me feel satisfied? Or here's another one. I've been doing this thing for so long and I thought it made me feel satisfied, but does it still make me feel satisfied? Does it still make me feel fulfilled? Or am I doing it just because that's what is expected of me? Start asking yourself those questions. You can practice letting go. If there's things you need to let go of, you can practice doing if there's things you want to start doing, but it's about reflection and observing and then taking action. So here's what I'm going to leave you with today, everybody. This question is probably one of the most impactful questions that I learned Shadow and I both have it on a Post-it note in our offices right beside our computer. Because whenever we're going to make decisions, we ask this question. And that's because we're learning how to be self-aware, and we're learning how to understand what our boundaries, needs, and wants are, and how to understand what our intentions are, and how to really lean into having a human experience. And at the core of this podcast, we're trying to hear other people's stories of their human experiences and share our stories of human experiences. And you can call that purpose if you want. You can call it advice, you can call it friendship, you can call it interaction, you can call it connection, you can call it intention, goals. But if you feel really pressured by this idea of purpose, this idea of living an intentional life, just let it go. And just know that your purpose is just to be a human being, and you deserve to be happy, and you deserve to feel worthy, and you deserve to feel connected. So here's the question, everybody, and I hope that this tool helps you. Whenever you're going to make a decision or take action in your life, I want you to ask yourself, does this action or decision support the life that I'm trying to create for myself? Does this action or decision support the life that I'm trying to create for myself? And the more you ask yourself that question, the more you're going to come into, what is the human experience that I want? What are the boundaries? And when you ask yourself this question before you make a decision, you're going to easily and naturally be able to communicate your boundaries and know what they are. You're also going to easily and naturally be able to understand what you want and what you don't want, what your needs are and what your needs aren't. So let me say the question to you one more time. Write it down. Does this action or decision support the life that I'm trying to create for myself? You could even say that I'm choosing to create for myself. When you get in the practice of using the simple question, you're starting to have a better self-awareness, a relationship with yourself, a better understanding of what fulfillment is, what satisfaction is, and you're giving yourself permission to have needs and to have wants. You're allowed to have wants. You're allowed to want things. You're allowed to feel worthy, and you are worthy, and you have purpose just by being a human being on the face of this planet. So thank you for joining me, everybody, today for this mini-sode. And Shadow and I will be back next week for a full episode with a guest. It's going to be great. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if you want to continue to support us, everyone, if you think what we do is valuable, if you think that it helps you answer those questions like what is purpose, or helps you feel a sense of relief by hearing other people's regrets, to know you're not alone and that we share in this human experience, tell a friend. Tell a friend to listen to the podcast. You can become a podcast supporter by checking in the notes of this podcast on all the different ways that you can support us. But we appreciate you so much, and we hope that you find this podcast meaningful, and these little tips and tricks in the mini-sodes are able to help you as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see ya, hear ya, be with you in the next podcast next Tuesday with a full episode. Have a great day, everyone. Love ya. Bye.
This episode of Let's Relieve Regret was produced by Shadow Ball and Victoria Muir-Bercia.
Editing by me, Victoria Muir-Bercia.
We are an independent podcast supported by you, our listeners.
If you think this podcast sends a valuable message, you had an aha moment, or learned something new about yourself, help us realize our goal of reaching as many listeners as possible.
We encourage you to take action and support us right now by choosing one of the following options.
You can easily support us by
following us on Instagram at relieve.regret.
Tell 2 friends.
Leave a 5-star review on whatever app you're listening to us on.
Leave a tip at ko-fi.com/Let's Relieve Regret podcast. That's ko-fi.com/Let's Relieve Regret podcast.
Join our conversations in the Facebook group, Let's Relieve Regret Podcast.
Find all this information, all the links, and more in the podcast notes. Okay, bye.
Bye.